Today we are in the test server and we're going to be talking and seeing live one of the latest champions and as well one of the most interesting champions that have been released so far. Like we've seen every month since last year has been released one of these Unity champions, very unique, there's only one per faction. And now it's been the time of the last faction, the Sylvan Watchers or the Sylvan Elves, and its faction Unity champion. Let's have a look at him. Hi, Senda here and welcome to another raid video. In this case from the test server. Plarium has been keen enough to give us all the champions, all these new champions, and they put them on the test server for us to try and for us to play with them. I don't have the champion on my account, but I think it's definitely one that you might want to put in your list because it's a really interesting and powerful one, especially depending what you have from Sylvan Watchers. In my case, I don't have the best champions. I would love to have an Elva, I would love to have a Feral. I don't have any other two. Like you can see, I have several others from the faction. Glycad, another amazing one. Incense, another amazing one. I don't have them, sadly. But if you have any of these champions as well, like Padraig is an amazing champion as well. Ovela, Yostrid, of course you can. Depends what you have, but like I said, it's a faction with really powerful champions, and this one is called Caldor or BLADECHORISTER CALDOR. Is definitely one that you want to have it under your radar and keep an eye for him for whenever there's an event that you can get. Let's briefly come have a look at what are his skills, what is he capable of. There's a lot going on. He's one of these champions that have a lot of text. First of all, what's his role? What is he supposed to be doing? And we can see he's an attack-based champion, or at least it's an attack champion, which means probably his role is going to be damage dealing, he's going to be dealing damage. And in terms of stats, we can see here attack 1663, so pretty high. However, we have a pretty average HP and defense, very standard for damage dealers, 103 speed and 63% of crit damage, which normally gives us a hint that Plarium is thinking on this guy as a damage dealer. What else do we have? We have an A1. In this case, this A1 has a 15% chance of placing a stun for one turn. It's not amazing, it's not super powerful. However, it has a pretty high interesting multiplier. So he's going to be able to smack. We're going to see it later on, but he is definitely going to be able to smack. Also, we'll ignore 20% of each target's resistance for each continuous heal on this champion. This means that for every continuous heal we're going to have on top, or that we're going to have applied to these champions, we're going to need every time less and less accuracy, making it fairly easy to gear because it's not going to be so demanding in terms of accuracy. Then we go on his A2. This A2 is going to be kind of the activator. We're going to be able to choose what do we want to do with this skill, and if we prefer to preparing the enemies for a smack or preparing ourselves for a smack, but it's going to be kind of a setter skill. We can choose. The first part of the skill is telling us what happens if you choose the enemies. The second part, what's gonna happen if we choose the allies. If we choose the enemies, it says select a target. If the target is an enemy, decreases the duration of all buffs on all enemies by one turn. This is not bad, it's pretty useful in a lot of places. Places a 5% poison on all enemies for 2 turns, at least puts 1 in all the enemies that are vulnerable to poisons, and an additional poison for each continuous heal buff on this champion, which means like the more continuous heals we have on ourselves, the more poisons we're gonna apply. This, like I said, works really well because this faction has a lot of champions able to apply continuous heals. We have Elva, we have King Alcobar, we have Oela, we have Padraig, we have a lot of our champions that are able to place continuous heals. So it's a faction and it's a kind of a synergy that works really well. And then finally, instantly activates all poison debuffs on all enemies. If instead of choosing an enemy, we're choosing an ally, what we're gonna do is we're gonna increase the duration of all buffs in all allies by 1 turn. Then we're gonna activate all the continuous heals on all allies, so making a heal all across the board to our allies. We're gonna place a perfect veil on this champion for 2 turns and also a continuous heal for himself for 2 turns. And another continuous heal for each alive ally, which means, for example, in Hydra, it's going to be himself and 5 other allies, so he's going to put on himself 6 or up to 6 continuous heals. It's pretty easy for these champions to be completely stacked of buffs, because it's very easy to just stack 5, 6 continuous heals, so it's going to be a lot of buffs basically. And finally, if this fills this champion's turn meter by 15%, for each buff, like we've seen he's able to apply a lot, or debuffs, also he's able to apply quite a lot, placed by this skill, which means this skill is only on 3 turns cooldown, 5 turns here. We lower it by 2 with books, and we're gonna increase if we just apply 2 continuous heals plus 30% turn meter. If we apply a couple of poison, again, it's gonna be able to recirculate through this skill very fast just because of this extra turn meter. On the A3 is the smack. Here we prepare the enemies, and here we smack them. Attacks one enemy before attacking has a 100% chance of removing all buffs from the target. This is first of all one strip. Then we place decreased defense and weaken on the target for 2 turns. So we just leave it really sweet and soft, ready to smack. We'll ignore 20% of the target's resistance for each continuous heal. Again, we still need some accuracy, but not too much. And then here's where the fun starts, because as we can see, this champion scales off enemy max HP. This means normally the hit is going to be pretty high, but there is a lot of other circumstances, a lot of other extra add-ons that we're going to have to in his kit that's going to make him hit even harder. If there's one faction ally, removes all the buffs from all the enemies if the initial target is killed. This is going to be a bit more depending on where we're going to use him. Maybe, for example, arenas could work there, and this buff removal cannot be resisted. So we have to target an enemy, smack him, and then if he dies, we just do a complete cleanse. Like I said, more focus for arena. I don't really see this guy being in the arena, but however, he has the potential to obviously do something there. If we have 2 faction allies, we'll ignore 5% of the target's defense for each poison debuffs on them. And we've seen we're also able to apply quite a lot of poison and continuous heal on this champion. So the more continuous heals and the more poisons, the harder he's gonna hit. Finally, if the initial target is under poison debuffs that we are probably previously placed with this A2 or by any other champion, the poison debuff is something quite common in the Sylvan Watchers, also attacks all other enemies, which means is an AoE attack scaling out of enemy max HP. This is a massive smack. The damage dealt is proportional to the initial target's max HP and how many poisons debuff are on them, which means the more poisons, the more damage. And that damage is going to be quite a lot because we're also placing decreased defense and weaken. So this is a smack. This is really hard hit. This is just the cherry on the top. I mean, just without this passive, this champion is super complete. It's gonna hit really hard and has so much versatility in terms of buffs, debuffs, decreasing duration, increases duration, enemy buffs removal. He's able to do a lot of things. This is the cherry on top because we'll ignore 15% of the target's defense on top of what it ignores from here and on top of the set if he is under veil, and if he's not under veil, so he's protected in both ways on both case scenarios, this champion receives 30% less damage from enemies when not under a perfect veil. So it's a win-win for us. We either deal more damage or receive less damage. Both things work. If we have one ally, each continuous heal on this champion increases the crit rate by 20%. This is to me not that important, not so interesting, basically because it kind of requires the two things. One, have at least one extra ally from the faction, and also to have continuous heal on himself. The problem with this is that we're not always going to be 100% sure that we're always going to have, if we, I don't know, if we build him with 60%, we need at least 2 stacks of continuous heal. We need to make sure that we always have 2 stacks of continuous heal, otherwise this kind of loses value. So I just think it's just safer gearing him with 100% and forget a bit about this bit. If we have 2 faction allies, each time a continuous heal activates on this champion also fills the turn meter by 8%, so it's also going to be able to get shitloads of turn meter through here. Finally, each time a continuous heal activates, and this is the cherry on top of the cherry on top, every time a continuous heal activates on this champion or an ally, I mean it doesn't matter, you just every time there's a continuous heal, increase this champion's damage by 5% and stacks up to 150. This last line is amazing, it's unbelievable, and we're gonna see how much we're able to scale because it's a lot. In terms of aura, we have a double, crit rate 25%, not super important, and speed in all battles only for Sylvan Watchers. So now that we know the champion, we know he's super complete, he's able to do a lot of things, I'm gonna show you quickly how do I have him. In this case we know it's a damage dealer, so it's gonna go in lethal, cruel, merciless. The idea, probably the perfect set for him would be something like a 9-piece merciless. I think I do have, I don't know if in the test server, something like this. The problem is that I don't have accessories. I don't have all the accessories from the merciless, but the idea would be something like 9-piece merciless because everything is useful. Attack, crit damage, speed, chance to decrease cooldowns, ignore defense, speed, crit damage, extra turns. I mean, this set would be amazing for him if you have the 9 pieces of merciless. It's not the case, that's why I didn't gear him, but it's a really powerful set on him. I went a step down, something a bit more feasible, something a bit more normal or easier to get, which is, like I said, ignoring defense is what we need, more attack, more increased defense, and in this case just whatever random pieces I was able to gather. But this is a bit the idea. We have 6100, we have enough crit damage, we're gonna be taking someone, I'm not sure if in this setup I have him, but we are gonna be maybe able to increase our crit rate, and we're gonna try it. I think the main place is probably Hydra or the Chimera. But like I said in the beginning, it depends a lot what kind of champions do you have to go with him. In terms of relics, probably he's able to apply a lot of debuffs, so I don't have that many on the test server, they just gave us a couple of ones. But I'm thinking on this Heretic Coronet, for example, can be a very good one because we increase the damage every time we apply debuffs, which means we're gonna apply a lot of poisons. Every poison is gonna stack, and up to 30% of increased damage. Malefic Talon could also work, Storm Caller could also work. There's a lot of different options, especially I'm thinking Chimera, but there is, like I said, Murder Fang, probably also pretty powerful. There's a lot of different options here that are gonna work very well on him. Basically everything that is related to increasing our damage is gonna work. And in terms of masteries, last but not least, it's a pretty classic nuker building type of masteries. We're looking for Helm Smasher at the end, increasing a bit of accuracy over here, skills fully booked. I do have the souls, but I think it's better to know what this champion is capable of raw, without any sort of fancy stuff around. Like, I do have champion, I do have the 5 stars, we could try it like this, but that requires the 2 complicated things. One getting the champion, other getting the soul, and I think showing it fully maxed with everything is not gonna be for the majority of you watching the video. So now we got the champion, we've explained it, we've showed it. I think, and I probably will recommend it if I pull this champion, God willing, if I wish, in probably 2 places. One would be the Hydra. I think that in Hydra he's gonna be amazing, and also the Chimera. The problem in the Chimera is that we all know that one of the most meta champions for this dungeon is Elva. I do not have Elva, and I cannot show you how is the whole interaction with Sylvan Watchers for Chimera. There's other champions that are very powerful here that also work really good with him. For example, Elva, like I said, is probably the meta. I mean, everyone is using an Elva, not me, I don't have her sadly. But if you have an Elva, if you have Padraig, for example, is another very good choice. We cleanse, we heal, we have ally attack, so it's another very powerful champion. So we have 2 here, plus Caldor, and probably, I don't know, not Glycad, maybe Ostrid, maybe Oella, maybe Feral, something like that. I would say these 4 could easily go into a Chimera team. All of them, plus maybe 1 Lamassu, Here Orthoratrix Lamassu, I think is probably a very good combo and can take you very, very far in the Chimera. But like I said, I'm sorry, I don't have the champions. In the test server, I have what I have, and I cannot show you the best ultimate setup, but it will be something along these lines. It will be Elva, it will be Padrai, it will be him, and I think he has the power to do Nightmare, Ultra Nightmare without too much trouble. For Hydra is a bit different because we have 6 different champions that we can take, and in this case I chose this one just to show you a bit of the damage he's able to do, even not taking the top champions. Like I said, I don't have them, but even without that case scenario, I'm taking some other useful champions, which is what I have. I mean, Oela probably is not Hydra champion, but I do need to bring something here. He is gonna be the main source of damage. Lamassu is gonna be here basically for the reset on skills on this guy, and also the block buffs AoE. And here Ashnar, you see 6 stars. I don't have the 6 stars on my account, I have only 4 stars. I do have the champion, but basically the only thing I'm looking for here is the debuff spread, in case I can spread some poisons, but mainly the 2-turn provoke. That's the main reason why am I taking here. I don't have any reviver. Again, here an Elva would be a really amazing champion. We could get rid of Oela, we get heals, we get cleanses, we get a lot of things, we get the revive, that's gonna be the most important. But like I said, I'm not gonna go all the way, or I'm not gonna do the whole key because I don't have the best champions. I just wanna show you a hint of what is he capable, which is not little. So we're gonna play a couple of debuffs. Like I said, we have to start kind of preparing the whole set. We're gonna start applying heals on ourselves. Like you can see, we apply 6 continuous heals, 1 for each of our allies, which means every time there's a continuous heal going on here, it's gonna increase his damage. We're gonna add a couple of more buffs. We're gonna add more speed, we'll increase attack, weaken all around. We're gonna get an extra continuous heal. So all these continuous heals are gonna start proccing, and all these continuous heals are gonna increase his damage. Now we're gonna see the first hit. Like I said, pay attention because this damage is gonna start scaling. So we're gonna go, for example, for this head, decrease defense, weaken, and the smack. And in this case, this head didn't have any poison. That's why we didn't go all the way across the board. But now let me get a provoke on that head, which skill is this one, a provoke. Also the increase crit damage, which is gonna be helpful for him. We reset the skill, we increase the duration of the buffs, all these continuous heals. Now we're gonna apply a couple of poisons. Like as you can see, we had a lot of continuous heals, and also there's a lot of poisons applied here, another bunch of poisons here. Because of all these poisons, we got shitloads of turn meter, which means we're ready to attack again. And now the smack is gonna be AoE because we're gonna target one of the heads that has all of these poisons. So here you can see the hit. First smack, 610, and then an AoE max HP. Increase max HP to all the rest of the head. This is just with the heads as they are now. Let's take some heads down, let's start chopping heads, and you're gonna start seeing real damage here. Again, if we have, for example, let's see, now we spread all these poisons to this head that lost them. We want to keep all these poisons there in place. Now is the A1. The A1, like I said, there's not much going on the A1, but it's a powerful hit, and the more it scales, the more turns, the more continuous heal and so on, we're gonna start hitting harder and harder and harder. Here we saw 133,000, this is gonna keep increasing, just bear with me. We're gonna apply a couple more shit to the enemies, and as soon as we start chopping heads, the fun's gonna start. Another AoE attack, 160,000. We want to apply decrease defense. We want to apply some weaken AoE, which we already have. Decrease attack. Again, we can keep applying poisons and activate all these poisons over here. Turn meter. We can reset him again. We can apply a couple more extra. Now we want to apply continuous heals. Again, full continuous heals. Probably another AoE attack, because why not? You can see here this 190,000, slowly but surely it's increasing. Block buffs to this head. Let's get rid of this one because it's getting quite annoying. keeps stealing our buffs, and we don't want that. Now let's get rid of this head. One smack, 492,000. Didn't have any poisons, unfortunately. Now they're gonna have poisons because all the chop heads are I mean, we can apply poisons on these heads, not on all of them, but in some of them we do. I want here the 2-turn provoke, perfect. Now keep attention again, the AO1, the AOE A1, 573,000. Imagine this with all 4 heads chopped, is increasing slowly, increasing slowly. More turn meter, more turn meter. It's a very fast setup actually. Now we can apply poisons again. There we go, poison over here. And 1-1, not this one. We can apply decreased defense. Perfect. Now we're gonna start seeing smacks. Probably and ideally we should get rid of another head. For example, this one, 482,000. We need to get rid of another head. I mean, he is basically just, taking the whole team in terms of damage. He's just applying damage. Spread a bit more of shit here. Let's get rid of some other head. But he's doing the whole job of damage of this setup, and is not even together with the best of the Sylvan Watchers. Reset on him. Start chopping heads. 766. Like I said, it's a enemy max HP hit, but it's increasing and increasing and increasing. Okay, so now the fun starts. We're gonna start chopping heads. Like you can see, this one we have spreaded a couple of poisons. This one we cannot apply any poisons, but we have 2 chopped. This one is about to also be cut. We are gonna start dealing some serious damage here because we're gonna target this one, and the damage is gonna go to all of the rest of the heads. So pay attention, 1.2 and 2 and something, but this is just starting. I've seen him smacking for even more than that. So we're gonna be able to see the AoE, for example, again. AoE attack, 362, 380 something. So it's getting there, it's every time more and more and more. We do go an AoE attack here. Now we just need some more continuous heals and poisons. Both things could do. Gets a lot of turn meter. Now we're gonna see that he just goes again because his turn meter is right there again. So we go another AoE attack. Now we're ready to go again. This one. Let's go for this one. And now pay attention because we're gonna have 1 continuous heal, 2 poisons, 3 poisons over here. We're gonna do serious damage now. So let's pay attention and smack. 1.9 million, 1 million, and I've seen him hitting for more. Probably the continuous heals increased damage is not activated yet, but I've seen him hitting for almost 3 million. It's insane. The amount of damage he does with the right setup is crazy, and the right setup is not even that hard to configure. Again, the A1, almost 1 million with an A1. 500 something, like you can see it just increases and increases and increases. Now the debuff spread, not even this mythical 6 stars is hitting as much as he is. Like I said, keep an eye because this guy is gonna be really interesting. I'm gonna leave it here. I don't want to make this video super long. I just wanted to give you a bit of an idea, a bit of a hint of what is this champion able to do. Like you can see, this is not even the best setup, and he's able to push shitloads of damage, making a very consistent setup. We have a lot of buffs, a lot of debuffs. We heal, we activate, we put poisons, we debuffs, enemy max HP. Himself alone, he's been able to probably carry the whole team in terms of damage. So really powerful champion. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like this kind of videos explaining a bit of everything. I'll leave you over here a recommended video, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.